Chapter 20, Section 2, Adolescence and Responsibility. If you can't see what it says on here, it says management, and down here it says employees. That's kind of funny. Anyway, here's a quick quiz for you. See how many of these questions you can answer yes to. So in your journal, get it out. In your journal, I want you to write down these statements that apply to you. So if only the first one applies to you, write that one down. If all four, then write all four down. So that's what I want you to do for this. Do you do what is best for you even when your friends urge you to do otherwise? Are your decisions consistent with your values? Do you think about how your behavior impacts others? Do you accept responsibility for your actions? So these are the ones I want you to bring to class. Instead of writing a paragraph like it says here, we'll discuss it in class. So bring it in and we'll see where it goes. So, responsibility to yourself. With adolescence comes increased privileges. And it's true. You get to do more things than you used to be able to do. You're treated more like an adult, and you make decisions that direct your life. You can choose who your friends are, when you see your friends, what you do with your friends. You get to choose what you wear and what you get to eat. These things become more and more true the older you get. But there's a flip side to privilege. With these privileges, there's a certain amount of responsibility. If you're going to get to choose your own food and all you choose is junk food, well, you're not taking that responsibility of choosing wisely for yourself. If you're going to choose your own clothing and you wear clothing that's all torn apart and holes in it and you wear it to church and that kind of stuff, well, there's a consequence for that too. There's a responsibility to know what's appropriate at the right time and the right place. So that flip side of privilege is responsibility. Your pathway to adulthood will be marked by a growing responsibility for your own decisions and actions. We don't expect anything less than that at Chaminade. So we want you to take responsibility for yourself. During adolescence, you become more responsible for taking care of yourself. And it's up to you to eat nutritious meals. It's up to you to exercise. It's up to you to visit the doctor if you're sick or the dentist if you have an ache in your tooth. It's up to you to make those calls. And while your parents may make the actual phone call, it's up to you to say, hey, this is really bothering me. Can we see a doctor? If you pay for some or all of your clothes or other personal items, you're also going to become responsible for managing a budget. If you don't, it may be a while before you understand the true value of money. So, many of the decisions you'll face can affect your health and safety. And these decisions that you make on your own, you have to take responsibility for whatever happens. And know that you're going to make mistakes. And also know that that's okay. That's a part of growing up. But many of these mistakes often come with consequences that are less than pleasant. Well, hopefully that helps you remember not to do it again. So we think about our future. Here you see the Afghanistan School of Suicide Bombers. Now pay attention. I'm only going to do this once. A little funny thing. But when you think about the future, these are the years right now that you're living where you may make decisions that could affect your career. What do I mean by that? Well, there's plenty of time to figure out what you want to do, and there's plenty of time to change your mind. But you got to have at least a direction that you're going to go in. You may think that you want to be a doctor, and maybe 4 years from now you're like, oh gosh, I could never be a doctor. But for those 4 years that you think you're going to be a doctor, you're working in a direction. If you have no direction, it's not that you need to know what your career choice is, but the choice that every Chaminade student should know is that you're heading towards college. Well, things that you do now affect that possibility, and that's part of your life. Absolutely, the things you do now can be a part of who you are for the rest of your life. Making responsible decisions now helps keep open options. If you make mistakes in such a way that you can't go in a direction, well, then that's the way it works, and you've closed a door that is no longer open to you. And you know what? Maybe that's not where you were going to go anyway, so you may or may not miss it. But then again, it may come back to haunt you, and you just don't know. You can't avoid all mistakes, that's for certain, but you certainly can try to make the best responsible decisions you can. You also have responsibilities to others besides yourself. And this would include your family, your friends, community, everybody around you. You have a responsibility to them. So at the same time that you're gaining more independence, others might be relying on you for help. This might be your grandparents who might ask you to come and cut the grass, or your parents or help paint the house, or it could be at school. There's clubs that require service hours from you or whatever. Whatever it is, it's a privilege to be a part of a family, a privilege to have friends, it's a privilege to be a part of Chaminade, but there comes a responsibility with that, and people expect things of you. In many families, the family unit and family rules are valued more highly than your own autonomy. There's a vocab word for you, autonomy. Another word for that is independence. In other words, the I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and who I want to do it with mentality, that's what you want. But oftentimes that doesn't happen because that's not what the family's doing. No, you can't go to your friend's aunt, so-and-so was coming over and we're going to be visiting with her instead. And you're like, do I have to do that? And at this point in your life, the answer is yes. Yes, sir, you do. You have to do what the family says, whether you want to or not, whether you think it's fair or not. That's a part of life. Your parents are providing you with everything right now, and they call the shots, and that's the way it goes. And, you may not think it's fair, and it may not be, but that's the way it is. So, you can buck that. You see the picture here of the horses fighting. You could fight with your parents, and a lot of teenagers do. Or you can come to the realization that, I understand. I will do as you ask. And but when I turn 18 and I'm out of here, then I'm out of here. And, that's your decision too. So, hopefully your parents are willing to work with you some. But ultimately, you have a place in a family, and you have to answer to that. So this friction between your parents and you, or maybe even you and your grandparents, is common. It's expected. And there's stuff you can do about it. Responsibility to your family. With increased independence comes increased responsibilities even at home. So what do your parents expect of you? They expect you to help out. You may now be more responsible for more physical work needed to maintain the household, like I said, cutting the grass or painting the house or taking out the trash. You might even be expected to give back. You might have to go sit with family members who are sick. You might have to drive your brother. You're not old enough to drive, but if you have older brothers, they may have to drive you. And that's just part of being in a family. But more importantly, you have to play by the rules. And whether you agree with the rules that your parents said or not, whether it be about clothing or curfews or what you can and cannot do, and when you can and cannot do it, you have to live by those rules because you're a member of that family. You should be willing to take time away from your activities for your friends. So you may want to really do something, but your friend wants to do something else. Well, if he's truly a friend of yours, then you should be willing to compromise at least and sacrifice your wants and your desires to do what your friend wants to do. So you might have to help a friend out. I'm moving from one house to another, and I could really use some help packing or carrying stuff. And you're like, well, I'd rather stay here and play video games. Well, but maybe you help your friend out anyway. Maybe being a good listener. You don't have to have any answers. Just listen to what your friend's going through. How about offering encouragement or comfort when something goes bad in their lives? When you have a concern about a friend's health, safety, or well-being, you have a responsibility to try and help them, even if they don't really think they need it or want it. And sometimes that can cause problems. But ultimately, if you truly care about that person, sometimes you have to say something. I had a friend in high school that started taking drugs. And when he was doing these drugs, he was making stupid decisions and putting himself in really, really risky places, usually with driving a car. And I had to make a decision. Do I, for my friend's sake, say something to his parents? Do I let it go, thinking I'm being a good friend? It was a tough decision. I won't tell you what I did, but those are the kinds of decisions that we all have to face. And we have to face the consequences that comes with that too. Realize that you've probably heard the word peer pressure before, and it's almost always used in a negative way. Your friends push you to smoke a cigarette or to drink a beer. Well, you know what? Peer pressure can also be used in the opposite way. If you have a friend who's starting to make those kinds of decisions, yet the whole group of friends is not, that whole group of friends can put pressure on that one guy to say, hey, knock it off. That's really dumb. And the peer pressure might help him stop. So realize that you're not powerless. These things are not beyond you. You can overcome them and help your friends with it too. The last thing is you're responsible to your community. You become responsible for knowing the laws of your community and obeying them. I'm going to tell you right now that no police officer will say, oh, you didn't understand that, spray painting the walls was illegal? Oh, I'll let you go this time. Nope. You are responsible for knowing the community laws. And if you break a law, then you're going to have to pay the consequence. And ignorance, I didn't know, isn't going to cut it. You're expected to think about the effect that your actions will have, not only on yourself, but on your friends and in the community as a whole. If you get in a position where you're going to deface public or private property, you're going to deal with those consequences. You may even want to go further, though, than just knowing the laws and not breaking them. You might even want to help out. At Chaminade, we have service projects. We have an expectation that everyone will do a certain number of service hours. If you're a Boy Scout, they do community service projects too. There's a lot of different ways to help out in your community, and they're all great. They're all fabulous. So choose one and be a part of it.